So typically whenever I make one of these videos, I have my notes on my cell phone right here, and so I can just kind of like look down at it and reference it in the case or event that I need to talk about something that I totally forgot to talk about. And in this case, my first thing in my notes literally says, do a disclaimer so the internet doesn't hate you. Today we're going to be talking about a movie that most people don't like, called Suicide Squad. Jacob, if you look at the title, it tells you what to commit. I've heard that joke before, but at the same time, I don't like that joke. If you enjoy a movie, own it. Be proud of it because it reached you on a level that it may not have reached somebody else. So if you enjoyed Suicide Squad like me, own it. You liked it for a reason, and I don't want to lie to you guys. My biggest goal here on this channel that I've said 1,000 times before is to be honest with you guys. And if I like a movie that gets really bad reviews, I'm still going to be honest and tell you that I liked that movie, and that was a lot of that. Fact of the matter is, I liked Suicide Squad. I didn't love Suicide Squad. I think the film has a lot of problems, but for what it's worth, although it could have been a lot better, it's not this disaster that everybody's making it out to be, or at least in my mind it isn't. I liked the movie. I thought it was good. In my mind, it's a 7 out of 10. A bunch of you just unsubscribed from me, but you know, that's okay. So that being said, let's talk about why I thought Suicide Squad was actually okay. And yeah, let's talk about it.
You're late.
Yogata.
She's got my back. She can cut all you in half with one sword stroke, just like mowing the lawn. I would advise not getting killed by her. Her sword traps the souls of its victims.
Harley Quinn, nice to meet you. Love your perfume. What is that? The scent of death?
Whoa, easy, cowgirl. Ain't that kind of a mission. Have a seat.
What's up guys, I'm Jacob Suggs and welcome back to another video. And like I said, today we're going to be talking about all things Suicide Squad, a movie that most people don't like, and I might be the only person on the planet that actually really liked it. Do I think the movie could have been better? Heck yes. Do I think the film is a total disaster that should never be watched and is completely unwatchable? No. But there are a lot of things I liked in this movie, so let's talk about why it ain't that bad. See what I did there? It's the plug for my new series, to where I talk about a movie to see if it is that bad or if it ain't that bad. See what I did there? First off, I think the movie is extremely dark, and I think that the Suicide Squad movie needs to be dark, but at the same time, you need to have lighthearted jokes and fun and moments in the movie to counteract all of the darkness. I thought that the cool neon titles introducing all of the characters and stuff, I thought it wasn't poor editing. I actually thought that it was really cool and unique because they did different fonts and styles for the different characters. Granted, they do flesh out Deadshot and Harley Quinn much more than everybody else, but they still work together great as a team, and you still learn a lot about everybody except for maybe Katana and Rick Flag throughout the course of the movie. Katana, I will admit, is very much shoehorned into this movie. She should not be in this movie, and Katana's a great character, but she doesn't shine here. A lot of people complain that this movie isn't very colorful, and that it's set in Central City for the majority of time at night, so it's just really dark and dreary and drab and boring to watch. That being said, I thought the film was actually really colorful and fun and popped. The film does have dark moments, but at the same time, I think the film has enough lighthearted stuff to balance it out. David Ayer himself, I think, summed up this movie perfectly whenever he said that this movie isn't good versus evil, it's bad versus evil. And that's a really interesting concept that could have made for a great movie. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. But what we did get was a really interesting character movie. My biggest compliment that I can give to this movie is that I literally liked pretty much every member of the Suicide Squad. That being said, my problem with this movie isn't the squad themselves, it's more of the editing and pacing. I felt like the pacing in this movie was kinda off. It jumps here, there, and yonder, and it's just another great example of a studio taking a filmmaker's work and just editing it to crap. We saw that with the Batman v Superman theatrical cut. I don't think the Ultimate Edition is bad. I think it's actually pretty great because it's really cohesive and actually works. But the theatrical cut of BVS that Warner Brothers decided to put out for some reason is not cohesive and not linear, and scenes just kind of happen. And unfortunately, that's kind of what happened here as well. I think that David Ayer had a really cool vision for the Suicide Squad, and if you watch the original Comic-Con teaser for when they first announced this movie, it feels entirely different. Especially the scene when the Joker's like really bad. That scene looks entirely different than how it looks in the actual film. And I feel like that's partially because of the reception to Batman v Superman.
Know what they say about the crazy ones?
Huh?
If I'd only see
Oh, I'm not gonna kill you.
that the joke was on me.
I'm just gonna hurt you. Really, really bad.
We're bad guys. It's what we do.
That movie got a lot of negative criticism for being too dark. Suicide Squad needs to be dark, but when Warner Brothers saw that criticism, they didn't know how to balance it all out. I actually think that if we were to see David Ayer's cut of his movie, it actually would be really great, and not this controversial movie that some people love, some people absolutely despise. But this movie has really great character stuff, and the characters aren't the problem in the movie. The problem is the editing, like I said, but you do get a lot of great character stuff, especially with Harley Quinn's origin story and Deadshot and his daughter, which I found really touching. I didn't find it generic. I actually was getting sucked into their lives. Even like Captain Boomerang and El Diablo, I cared about all of the members of the squad. The best scene in the entire movie is when they're in the bar talking and they've kind of gone rogue and gone away from Rick Flag and the mission, and they're just sitting down in a bar and having a drink and taking a break away from the world for a while. That is the best scene in this movie because it tells us a lot about every single character, including Katana, who we don't know anything about other than the fact that she is Katana and she has his back. Everybody hates the Enchantress and Incubus in this movie. Everybody hates them in this movie so much. I mean, she's just literally doing this for like an hour, and it gets old really fast. That being said though, whenever I watch the movie, I don't think that the Enchantress is the main villain. Yes, she is an antagonist, and yes, Incubus is kind of her sidekick, but I think the real villain of this movie is actually someone in more of the hero seat. Amanda Waller. Amanda Waller, in the words of Deadshot, is an evil lady. She might be working for the US and the government and doing all these positive things, but she is kind of crazy in her own right. None of the Suicide Squad members are sane, though they do have humanity to them. Amanda Waller has humanity, but she's also just off the walls crazy with her ideas and her ideologies and other stuff too, including a scene in the film when she takes out her own men and women for the sake of the greater good. She's much like Batman in a way, and in a way I found Amanda Waller to be the real antagonist of this movie. And I feel like if you go in with that mindset, you're gonna get a movie that's much better than the Enchantress swinging her hips for like an hour. A lot of people also complain that 40 minutes of this movie is just getting to know the characters and the squad and stuff like that, and the movie just kind of stays in a first and second act and doesn't really blend in with a first, second, and third act structure. Most people that I've talked to that aren't comic book fans absolutely love the squad in this movie, which is what Warner Brothers and everybody wanted. If anything, give me good characters. The movie gave me, in my opinion, once again, good characters. Story is debatable. The squad has really good charisma, and you see that on the prison, and you also see that on the battlefield and in the city whenever they have to go to different places and interact with one another in maybe ways that they haven't done before. And I also really love how we kind of get to see what drove everybody to become evil. Deadshot just wants the best for his daughter and maybe to reconnect with his family. Harley Quinn is just infatuated with the Joker. Is it true love? Is it not? Even she doesn't know, and we don't know as an audience. And some people like Killer Croc were just born and everybody was, afraid of him or picking on him to the point to where he himself became the bully and became the villain. All because of how he looks, may I remind you. And then you have people like Captain Boomerang, who's just this crazy maniac Australian guy that likes boomerangs and wants to rob banks. Just an average Joe bank robber. But to me, the most compelling character in this movie is El Diablo, who has kind of retired his powers and put his powers off to the side because he accidentally killed his family with them. And that's super compelling if you're asking me. So I really loved seeing how the squad interacted with one another, and at the same time, seeing how they became the person that they are now, and by the end of the film, seeing at least a little bit of humanity shining through to each and every one of them. Granted, some members do have more to do than others, but I think that for what we got, we're still getting a fleshed out team that works for the movie given. Did I like Jared Leto's Joker? Yes, I did. Do I think that he's the best Joker? Heck no. Do I think that he's the worst Joker? No, I don't. I think that Jared Leto was horribly cut out of this movie, much like Jared Leto thinks. And unfortunately, because of the way the film is edited, and I know other people have talked about this too, it makes him look bad because of the way the film is edited, and it just messes with his performance and method acting, some of which I feel like wasn't necessary. But I'm excited to see more of the Joker in a different film because this isn't really his time to shine, though if you're asking me, I think it should have been, and I think he should have been the main villain in this movie. But the Joker does complement Harley Quinn in a really nice way because ultimately he's part of her origin story. And that's something that I really liked in this movie. My favorite scene with Jared Leto's Joker in this movie is when Harley Quinn finally submits fully to the Joker and falls into the chemicals, and he just walks away like he's gonna leave her and she means nothing to him. But of course he turns around and jumps back in and saves her. So at the end of the day, does the Joker really care about Harley Quinn? We don't know. And I thought that was brilliant. I get how it's really hard to translate the Harley Joker mad love relationship to the screen, but for what it's worth and for what we got, I think it's good. I feel like the soundtrack to this movie for the most part is really great. I listen to it a lot, but when it comes to the soundtrack, mixing in with the film, it's typically hit or miss for me personally. I think that scenes, whenever they're gearing up and getting ready to battle, set to Without Me by Eminem, are fantastic and the song really works. But then at other times in the movie, the soundtrack just doesn't work whatsoever, and unfortunately creates for a really weird experience while watching the movie. It just really feels out of place, which is pretty frustrating, and I get how some people really didn't like it. But it's also kind of sad because for everybody else, we got a really good soundtrack. I don't think that anybody's gonna argue the soundtrack to this movie is bad. It's just how the soundtrack kind of intertwines with the film that creates some diversity. I finally want to end once again with the quote by David Ayer: "This movie isn't good versus evil, it's bad versus evil." That is the best possible way you could sum up this movie, and a film with that premise could have been great. So it comes back to the question, is Suicide Squad really that bad? I would say no. I think that Suicide Squad is actually good for the most part, but it's disappointing because a film with a premise like that could have been great, and because it's not great is why it frustrates me a little bit. But at the end of the day, I can't deny that I had a fun time and a really interesting experience watching this movie. I think that the editing is a massive problem. Warner Brothers definitely needs to stick with one cut of the movie. I don't care how long it is or how short it is. That's the cut you need to stick with. And with Wonder Woman, they kind of did that already. So at the end of the day, I think Suicide Squad is okay to good depending on my mood. I don't think it's the best DC movie ever, but I certainly don't think that it's the worst film or superhero or comic book movie I've seen in like the past couple years. In fact, I would say Suicide Squad is still better than a couple other movies I've seen recently, but at the end of the day, I would say Suicide Squad, although it's disappointing, much like Spider-Man 3, this movie is disappointing, but it's not a disaster. There's a lot of cool elements in this movie, and I'm excited to see how the DCEU plays with them later on, and I'm excited to see where these characters go, so I guess I can say I'm optimistic and hopeful for a sequel, because I see a lot of potential, but it's up to the studio and the filmmaker and the screenwriters as to what they do with that potential. So, don't let me down. Again.
Jacob gave Suicide Squad a 7 out of 10. This is unbelievable. He gave Suicide Squad a 7 out of 10! What is this?
That being said, have you seen Suicide Squad? I know you probably didn't like it, but I'd love to hear why you didn't like it or why you did like it down in the comments below. And as always, I'm FrameByFrame. Remember the name, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.